Hello, we will discuss about which country is more secular, Iran or Turkey.
If you judge secularism of a country by its political system, of course Turkey is more secular, as it is based on the Laicite of Ataturk era, though the ruling Islamists are gradually undermining those foundations. However, if by secular you mean how non-religious and liberal are the people, the matter is up for debate as there is no free opinion polls in Iran. However, I would argue that Iran is more secular. Consider these. In Turkey in the past 2 decades or so, the majority have voted consistently for Islamist party of Erdogan. In Iran in the past 2 decades, in all of the so-called elections people chosen the least religious option. In Turkey most women wear hijab voluntarily. In Iran most women would love to get rid of the mandatory hijab. In Turkey mosques are packed with believers. In Iran, mosques are almost deserted despite massive state propaganda and budgets. They are attended only by few elderly. In Europe where immigrants are free to choose their way of life, you see loads of Turks covering their women, praying Allah and eating halal kebab decades after they arrived in Europe, just like Arabs. Iranians, in contrast, are happy to leave Islam and its baggage behind as soon as they exit the country's border.
I understand the points being made, but I would less than 40% of Turkish women wear the hijab. It's not a majority and increasingly fewer of them are wearing it. At least, a lot of Iranians outside of Iran act very secular. I wish we could have polls to know more accurately the views of Iranians in Iran. But I would say the Turkish trend of being deists became popular in Iran years back. It's more recent in Turkey.
As the adage goes, Turkey is secular government ruling a religious populace, whilst Iran has a religious government ruling over a secular population. My Iranian friends in Turkey are consistently gobsmacked by how Turks actually willingly elect a conservative Islamic government year after year and voluntarily put the hijab on.
I visited Iran after 35 years and on my way back to USA visited Turkey and found Turks a lot more religious than Iranians.
I never met an Iranian who was not down for a party, festival, gathering, etc. and having some fun. Smart people who also know the vow of not taking themselves too seriously. Sad that decades of politics still get in the way of things. It's funny when you ask an Iranian where they come from and they answer Persia with a grin.
This hurts me right in the heart, but I see the value in it. I'm a Turkish 20-something and I've watched the country shifting from secularism to religiousness. We call those good times as like old days. Lacism is still something many people in Turkey desperately hang on to. So don't think that all Turkish people are Islamists. That's too general. I know that most of the older generations of Turkish immigrants latched onto the ghettos and the old ways, but most of the Turkish immigrants now are quite modern and indistinguishable from the locals. The government is inclined towards Islamic values, but with the current trajectory, I think 10 years later Turkish youth will also think like most Iranian youth thinks now. Right now the Islamists are richer and have higher voices, but this is about to change given the heavy economic crisis in Turkey. Even the surveys indicate that.
You hit the nail on the head. My girlfriend is from Tehran, and we were just discussing this with a friend who lives in Istanbul. Turks have a more secular government, but are in general more conservative. In Iran, it's the opposite for sure.
Iranians have learned the hard way the nastiness of Islam's rule and wish to spit it out. Turks have just begun to embrace it. That is a sad irony. I think you have summed it up.
I think you are ignoring rural, urban and working, middle-class divide. Much of Turkish immigrants to Germany was from rural area, which explained their conservative attitude. Reverse is true for Iranian and West. Plus, many vote for perceived competency of parties rather than its religious outlook.
The sad irony is the fact that you are not able to realize that what ordinary citizens think and do is a reflection of what their leaders are. In Iran, ordinary younger Iranians are leaving Islam in droves as a result of their dissatisfaction and disillusionment with their so-called Islamic leaders who are ruling the country like some godless thugs to hang on to power, while on the other hand in Turkey its people somehow realize that a fusion of secular and Islamic values work better for them than relying on either secular or Islamic values alone. I know many Iranian expats in my country and all of them deliberately eat pork out of spite to their inept government at home which uses Islam as a tool to keep on ruling. The truth is the Iranian religious political elites left Islam a long time ago except in form. Therefore ordinary Iranians are doing the same as well.
You have clearly spelt out the difference between the fake and diluted Islam of Iran's Shia Muslims and Turkey's Sunni Islam as taught by the Prophet of Islam. The Shia are behaving exactly like the Christians who abandoned the teachings of Jesus. I am quite sure that you will get many ex-Muslims from them than from the Sunni, just like you get so many atheists from the Christians who believe Jesus is either God or Son of God.
Turkey is the result of one of the biggest Islamic empires which implement and progress the golden age of peace, whereas Iran breaks the rule of Islamic elements and have been seen to go against Islamic fundamentals. The foundation of two nations are different, hence the result. It has nothing to do with Islam in particular. It's the system and structure of Iran.
For Turkey, it really depends on the part of the country. Those that go to Europe tend to be from conservative parts as guest workers, but here in America there are lots of secular Turks that are not religious.
Everyone is sick of conservative preachers telling us what to do. Even in Pakistan, the conservative lobby has an iron grip, but the people want to be free. No one would want to live in a society where the government forces its views on you. Religion is personal. It should always be personal and not enforced on other people.
It is incredibly sad to hear things like the answer above on Turks and Persians. There are two primary factors here to be considered here. First, that Turks are Sunni Muslim, and there is no formal religious organization telling them how to be Muslim and what to practice, just a general consensus of scholars who follow 4 different forms of practice. No one is necessarily subject to any one of these involuntarily. One can in Turkey also follow the guidance of a Sufi sheikh. So to a certain degree, Sunni Islam is not an organized religion. My fear is that governmental involvement may increase and begin to force people to do certain things such as wear hijab. In Iran, I am told by many, people have no choice in many things, and are forced by government into mass conformity, by those who are often seen as most interested in keeping political control above all, and that means above the real intentions of the religion, that is, without real faith. If this is so, this poisons the religious environment completely. Religion is then used as a tool of mass control for political ends. This would be particularly easy in Iran, because it is a Shia country, and Shiism is organized like the Catholic Church in one all-controlling hierarchy. Sunni Islam has far less controlling organization, so when Khomeini took power, it was like the Pope becoming the dictator of Italy, and wishing to control everything. If the Persians were Sunni, they could have at least lived without Khomeini controlling the religious aspect of their lives to that same degree. Because of this religious dictatorship, now being emulated for the first time also in Afghanistan, the effect is to destroy the real spiritual life of the people. In Turkey, people are now free to practice their religion after government oppression of Islam. In Iran, the government is using Shia Islam to oppress the people, so as is a natural reaction by people who are not philosophers or theologians by nature. They just resist and rebel as far as possible. For many Persians, ironically, this rebellious behavior takes place in Turkey, where they are free to do so. My fear is that things might change in Turkey as a result of government pressure, and a puritanical crackdown will ensue. The result would be more Sharia and a lot less sincere Muslims, as in Iran now.
In Iran, in the past 2 decades, in all of the so-called elections, people chosen the least religious option. Does that include the choice of the majority of Iranians to elect Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in 2005? Funny that he is the only man the supreme leader of Iran is afraid of. So he rejected his nomination every time since.
I live in Germany. Frankly speaking, I never saw a single Iranian woman wearing Islamic hijab or the like, whereas hundreds of thousands of Turkish women with Islamic hijab are everywhere to be seen in Germany. My Iranian friend told me as soon as our women leave the home country and go abroad, they take off that Islamic headscarf and threw it in the nearest trash basket. My Iranian friend is officially Shia Muslim, but all religious symbols at his home belong to the original religion of ancient Iran, namely the Zardashti religion. Iranians are much more secular than Turkish people. This fact cannot be denied.